How you doing, folks? This is Charles Daring, for those of you that don't know me, even if you do. This is Season 1, Episode 17 of Scrolling with Charlie. Some people want it to be Scrolling with Russ, but I thought of it, so Alrighty then. First thing I'm going to do is make two announcements. One is, if you happen to stumble upon this show and are more into woodworking than specifically scroll sawing, head on over to Summers Woodworking Hangout show. Whoever has that, can they mute it? Somebody's watching on YouTube. Anyway, head on over, look for Summers Woodworking on YouTube, and he's doing a show right this second that's more woodworking based in general. Tonight they're discussing different type of joints, and you already missed. Okay, somebody's got their YouTube running. Anyway, okay. Actually, if we could all mute our mics, that would be good, just in the habit of it. What was I saying? Oh, and you already missed at 6 p.m. Central on Saturdays is the Woodworkers Weekend Shop Talk that is run by Jason McGinn and Matt Brander. Individually, I believe it's McGinn's Toolbox. I could be wrong on the title of that, and the Bearded Woodworker. But Maritime Woodworkers are them as a set, and they run the show. The other announcement is, for those that do not know, Mike Morlock is no longer selling the Flying Dutchman blades. He sold it to the Wooden Teddy Bear, and that's woodenteddybear.com. So you'll have to go there to get your Flying Dutchman blades. It may take a little longer because they don't specialize in just shipping out blades. But I talked to somebody earlier who lives in Texas, where I do, and he got his within a week. So let's just cross our fingers and hope we get the same good customer service. I've always had good luck with Wooden Teddy Bear. That's all the announcements I have. I'm going to go ahead and introduce. I've had the camera on somebody else the whole bloody time, but it's a newcomer, so I guess they earned it. Christopher, unmute yourself, and bloody hell, that's a hell of a start. I said hell twice in one sentence, 3 times now. Christopher, introduce yourself, and you're out of Syracuse, New York. Just tell everybody if you have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, my name is Christopher Demetric. I'm here in upstate New York, Syracuse, New York. I've been scrolling since about 2000, the last 15 years. And my name is Christopher Demetric, like the metric system. And you can go to The Dems World, which is short for my last name. So The Dems World is my YouTube channel, or just Chris Demetric. That will find it as well. And it's not exclusively scroll sawing, although I need to tend to that because it's what I enjoy more than anything. But I've got maybe 118 videos and 2,500 subscribers. That's
okay.
it. That's all I scroll sawing.
Okay, I appreciate it. Your voice has been sort of cutting in and out, so you may want to check your mic connection or get closer to it. I don't know what could be causing it. I heard it. I thought it was just me, but a couple people on the panel are noticing it as well. So hopefully that will fix itself, or you're able to find some kind of fix. And if you don't mind, sir, please mute yourself. It's just a good habit to be in so the camera doesn't get confused. Mark Sherman out of, don't tell me, Bellevue, Nebraska. Introduce yourself and tell them. I got it memorized.
Hi, I'm Mark Sherman from Bellevue, Nebraska, just a little bit outside or south of Omaha. Been scrolling for several years, probably since the 90s. I'm back into it now because I was kind of in a little hiatus, being in the Air Force and being busy. So yeah, I have a Facebook page, it's Sherman Scrollworks, so please check that out, or just contact me as Mark Sherman on Facebook.
Good deal. All
right.
Sorry, I'm sorry I interrupted you. What was your last sentence?
I don't have any YouTube channels.
Oh.
Not yet, anyway.
He'll get there anyway, by God. Yep. We got Rick Hutchison out of Grimes, Iowa. Rick, tell everybody all about your pretty sale.
Yeah, Rick Hutchison, got a website, scrollsaws.com, YouTube, and Facebook under Rick Hutchison.
All righty. Thank you very much, sir. And then we got our co-host, Russ Clarity, and he's in Mulberry, Florida. Tell everybody about your hairy self.
Yeah. Yep, down here in Mulberry. It's been hot the last few days, trust me. Been scrolling for over 35 years, or around 35 years. How you can reach me on YouTube, Simply Wooden Creations, Facebook on Simply Wooden Creations, and I always like saying www.simplywooden. I'll say it right. Simplywoodencreations.com.
Thank you, sir. I am Charles Deering on YouTube, where you're seeing this. If you're watching from my channel, I go by Charles Deering Scroll. Facebook, I am the Charles Deering because Charles Deering was taken. That's not an arrogant thing. I live in Gatesville, Texas, which is about halfway between Dallas and Austin, about 45 minutes from Waco, which is fitting because I'm kind of wacko. Ha ha! We're going to try not to do a karaoke show tonight, so don't get me and Russ started if we say something that comes up on a song. All right, we're going to start out trying to be mature here, which is rare. For anybody that didn't get the announcement, the reason why you see such a small channel is because the shows are running along. That's mainly because me and Russ have fun with it. So we figured if they had like 19 or more viewers, we would keep it going because it seemed like they wanted to watch. So, but then the viewership doesn't really top out above 200 usually, if even that high. So we figured a smaller panel and stick into the topics and then end it. Hopefully that'll generate more interest because people don't want to sit through an hour and a half, 2.5 hour show. So I would, because I'm kind of biased, but just saying. We're going to jump right into our first topic, and this is where the Q&A is going to be very important. We're going to hand it over to Rick Hutchison, and he is going to talk about scroll saw maintenance. Now, there are many kinds of scroll saws, but maintenance in general can pretty much be universal, but I will let Rick Hutchison tell you what you should do, what kind of schedule, if any, there is for maintenance, and if anybody has any. Already Mark Stallings is starting. If anybody has any questions regarding anything that's going wrong with their scroll saw or how to fix like a knock or a click or whatever's going wrong with your saw, throw it out and I will relay it to Rick Hutchison. So I'm going to send it on over to him. Rick Hutchison's in Grimes, Iowa, and he is your scroll saw maintenance go-to feller.
Okay. As far as maintenance on the saws, for the most part, there's not a lot. You need to oil. If you've got the lower price saws with the bushings, you need to keep some oil on those. And even some of the high price saws, like the Delta P20 that came with the parallel arms, graphite arms on it, does have little oil reservoirs on each pivot back on the arm. None of the saws that I know of have grease zerks on them, but a lot of them need to be oiled a little bit. A lot of the saws, like the DeWalt's and the Excaliburs, those are all sealed bearings, and you aren't going to get any oil to really do much of anything on them. The bearings are sealed. The biggest thing I find on most of the saws that goes wrong is bolts and screws that come loose on the arms, on the eccentric, the links, up on the clamps. And so periodically take the saw down to where you can get to all the nuts and bolts and make sure that everything stays tight. On some of the belt drive saws, you can have belts that are stretched out or break, and you have to replace. Blade clamps, I guess the biggest maintenance on those would be keeping them grease free. On some of the blade clamps, like the DeWalt, where they put a set screw in from one side and then the thumb screw in from the other side. For a while, there was a lot of the saws that were just going to the shelf and buying standard set screws. And if you look at a standard set screw, it is dimpled or recessed on the bottom to give more of a C-cap to make it clamp better when it was in use. Well, now that we're trying to put a blade flat up against that, it's not working because of the cup. So you need to take that set screw out and make sure the end of it is flat. Now on the DeWalt and some of the others, when you take the thumb screw out, there is a little mushroom in the bottom of that screw that you can pull out. And that will corrode up, well, not crud up, I guess, and that won't turn. Well, the idea is that little mushroom on the end will pivot, and when you turn the screw, still the mushroom is not turning with it, so you aren't trying to twist the blade up. I should have pulled the screw out of my Delta DeWalt to show you that, but you'll see, if you look at it, you'll see the screw threads, and then you'll see a flat spot. You just hook your fingernails in that flat spot and pull, and you'll pull it out, and it'll be that little ring that you see with a short pin that's about a 1/16 of an inch in diameter, has a rubber O-ring on it, and that's what keeps the thing from falling out, and that's why most people don't even know it's there. A lot of times on the very back tip of it, I will just put a very, very, very small dab of grease to kind of keep it lubed inside there. But you don't want any of that grease to come out of that mushroom and get into the blade clamp itself. And the blade clamps you never oil. The thing a lot of them do on the blade clamps too is they take them off and sand them with some real fine sandpaper, 400, 600 grit. Some of them will get kind of glazed over and the blades will start slipping. Blade clamps like the quick clamp on the Delta Q3 have the lever that comes around and locks, and I've never had a problem with that clamp, other than if you're using those and the blade is bending towards you, coming straight at you, you have at some time over tightened the clamp and bent the screw. Get a new screw for the clamp, put it in, and your blades will no longer bend towards you. And I mean, they'll bend enough that you can't get them through your fretwork holes. It puts a good kink in that blade that you can't get them. The blade's no longer straight. It really kinks them straight towards the front of you.
Now, Rick, I don't mean to interrupt. I thought you were about to pause. I was going to try to jump in. I've had scroll saws where the little set screw would get a groove in it worn from the blade. Now, is that common among the older saws?
Yes, in some saws it is. The old Deltas used to have a square nut on one side that just pulled up against the clamp, and the nut would get grooves in it and get all shiny, and then the blades would slide. Well, it was four-sided nut, so you could just turn it a quarter. You know, when that side got bad, you'd turn it a quarter. When that got bad, you flipped it over and used the other. So you had 8 different blade positions. But some of the clamps, you don't have that. So, yeah, you need to just go in and clean up those clamps once in a while if your blades are slipping. They just seem to kind of get slick and glaze over. I know some people have talked that there's grease on the blades and they slip in the clamp, and I have never had a problem with blades being too greasy that slip in the clamps.
Me either.
I've always found it's been the clamp itself that had the problem.
Hey, Rick.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, if you can put focus on me here, I'll show you these. This is what Rick was talking about on the DeWalt and the Delta saws with the blade clamps. I don't know if you can see this little piece here.
Hold something white.
This is what Rick was talking about, I believe. It fits on the inside of the very end of this screw here. It fits inside. It's got a little O-ring on top. You can see that. It just pops right back in the blade knob at the very end, and that's what clamps against the blade on the other side of the set screw.
Yeah, the Hagner has something very similar to that.
So
on their quick clamp.
Yeah. I don't know if that helps Rick's explanation a little bit or not, just to see it. So.
All right, we appreciate that.
Yep.
Rick, I do have one question in the Q&A for you so far, if you want me to go ahead and ask it, unless you wanted to finish your point.
No, go ahead. What?
Okay, Donna Presley said she had her DeWalt fixed and now can only tighten up to number 4 or the blade break. So how does she fix that? Or because it's been too long to take it back to the whoever repaired it.
Okay, as what controls that lever on your blade tension is the rod. That rod goes to the back end of the saw, and there's a wedge in there. I guess the wedge is this way, and the rod comes in the back. And so as that wedge is pulled, that spreads the arms and puts the tension. If you take the plastic housing up on the front arm and take that apart and get down to the rod and A lot of them say to do that when the saw starts knocking, to turn that rod a few turns. Turn it, I would think it's counterclockwise, and I'd give it 3 or 4 turns, and then put it back together and see if that doesn't solve it, which in essence is going to move the wedge further back, because the wedge tapers back from the front of the saw, and then the wedge is built to the front, and so the farther back you get it would be the more the arms would come up, and so then you would, by moving that lever, it won't pull the wedge as far, and it'll let you get more tension on it. And that's the first place I would go to look to try to fix that.
Thank you, Rick. And now, Donna, if that went a little too fast for you, you can either contact him privately and or watch this recording. But he's
my website, look under the DeWalt tune-up, and it'll kind of explain it there.
Yeah, he's got a whole mess of not a mess. He's got a whole bunch of maintenance and all kinds of stuff on his site regarding different scroll saws. And Paul Kane, I will get to your question as soon as we get around to that topic. I give you my word, I will. And Mark, what is it you're screen sharing with us? Oh, he's screen sharing from Rick's website. Mark, you want to explain what you're showing?
Muted. This is the schematic Rick was talking about on his website. So this is from his page here. So as you can see, the rod is number 24. That's he was talking about going back to into the wedge. So I guess Rick can go ahead and explain this a little bit better than I could, but this is at least the picture for him.
Yeah, once you take all the I guess we'd say everything above that rod 24. What is it? Part number 80 and 26 and 71 and all that stuff. You get all those. Basically, you got the 4 screws. I think that mark there is 44. And then the top cap will come off. And then you take screw 52 out. And then part 26, your lever will actually come off. And then part 78, I believe, is a bushing. No, the bushing's underneath. 78 must be the main part. Oh no, that's the 4 screws that hold that down.
Yeah, number 80 seems to be the part you're referring to under the tension knob.
Yep, you have to pull 80 out, and then you can. There's a number 25 is a bushing that's on the end of that tension rod, and you'll have to take that off, and then you can unscrew that tension rod and then put it all back together. It looks complicated, but once you start getting into it, there's not a whole lot there.
All right, thank you very much, Mark, for showing that picture. I kept it on you while he was doing that, and thank you, Rick, for the explanation. We have 23 viewers. If you're not familiar with the Q&A and you have a question for Rick about repairs to your saw, specify the saw and the problem you're having. And right around here on your screen, not mine, you'll see what looks like the side of a Rubik's Cube. It's a square with a bunch of squares in it. Click on that for the Q&A, and that's where you would type in your question. Now, Rick, I have a question. Let's say you have an extra caliber that's knocking. What would be the fix on that?
This caliber, from what I've heard and seen on those, more of that is loose bolts and screws or bearings that are going bad. And it's usually in that back link arm is the first place to start looking on with that caliber. That's back right at the motor where it ties onto the arms. Seems to be the main place on those that goes bad.
Okay, out of the brand name saws, which one would you say has the most common problems? I know how you feel about Harbor Freight, so we don't have to go there. But in scroll saws in general, who do you think seems to have the most problems most often?
You know, I don't really get that many people contacting me about problems with them. I mean, when you look at like the Hagner and you compare that to the DeWalt, that DeWalt has so many moving parts in it. I think I heard at one time that there's 28 moving parts in the linkage and arms for the DeWalt, and there's nowhere near that. There's maybe 8 moving parts in the Hagner at the most.
Yeah.
So I mean, you take 8 parts, you get 1 thousandths of wear on 8 parts, you got 8 thousandths of play. You take a DeWalt, you get 1 thousandths of wear on every part, and you got 28 thousandths of play going in the saw. So things get real loose real quick. But I really haven't had too much that I've seen where people are having a lot of problems with any saw. The biggest thing is usually the switch, and that, take an air hose and blow it out.
Yeah, it's usually up in there.
You can either take the air hose out and blow it out, or you can do like I did on mine.
Protect it.
If you can see right here, what I did on my Delta is I just took some packing tape and just taped the whole switch up so that it stays dust-free. This has been like this since I own the saw, so I haven't had to clean it or do anything, and that'll help keep a lot of the dust out of it. Now, you don't want to tape up this back here is your RPM, where you adjust the RPM of the blade. You don't want to tape that up, but just tape your switch up like I did right here, and it'll stay dust-free.
Yeah, and some will come with a dust cover. My Hagner has a dust cover over the switch.
I'd like to point out something that I read. Sheila Landry, a lot of people should know who she is. She got a question on Facebook the other day, and this is the blade clamp that's on the Delta, which is exactly like the one on the Excalibur that Mark had or showed. Well, I didn't want to drop that, but I did. But on the other side of I put a knob on mine so I could get a hold of it. But on the other side of this is a set screw that it's real small. Let me get my little handy dandy tool down here so I can hold it up. But that set screw is what is on the other side of this part. Now, according to what's his name from Excalibur?
Ray.
Yeah, Ray at Excalibur. These two pieces are hardened steel, and according to him, a lot of people are saying take sandpaper and like sand the ends of these to help the blade stick better. Well, Ray over at Seiko said do not do that. Actually, because what happens is you're going to start sanding off the hardened part of the steel, and he said once it starts having problems, rather than sand it, you just need to buy the new parts and put in there. He has them on his place. They also will fit my Delta and the DeWalt 788. Now, I'm just going by what he said. I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just telling you what Ray at Seiko over there said about that. But he said you can order just this knob here with the end on it and this little set screw from him and put them in your saw. It'll work for the Delta and the DeWalt. So I just thought that would bring, because I have actually over the years sanded these, and I'm wondering to myself if I'm creating more problems than I am good. So
I appreciate that, Russ. That's what I'd like to get on the show eventually, is Ray from Seiko. And anybody that doesn't know, he's in Texas, and the website is spelled SEYCO.com. That's where a lot of people turn to get help on the Excaliburs.
I want to touch up a little bit on what Russ just showed, and what also Rick talked about with those blade clamps and making sure things are tight. And the thing is, with those little knobs that come with the DeWalt and Excalibur and whatnot, there is, the aftermarket type thing like Steve Good has designed. But like Russ has mentioned before, you do not want to over tighten those knobs. Because if you do, you're definitely going to strip out your chucks a lot easier, a lot faster than they normally would have been. So those knobs are easier on the hands, of course, and for arthritis and whatnot, whatever you have. But if you over tighten them, you're going to mess yourself up, and you'll be ordering blade chucks.
Absolutely. Gary Griffiths in the Q&A said that was me asking about the sanding the ends of the blade clamps, and it was Sheila that said not to sand that. I guess Ray. She heard it from Ray.
If you go back and read what she said it did. Ray told her is what she was saying.
Yeah. And he says it does remove the hardened steel, and she did say just spend the $7 for the repair kit when they start slipping. And again, Paul Keene, I will get to your question as soon as we get to that topic, sir. I give you my word. Let me ask Christopher. You may have said it in your introduction. What kind of saw do you have, and have you had to do any maintenance or repairs on it?
Well, first of all, is my audio a little bit better?
So far.
Yeah, I realized that I had my furnace blowing directly onto the microphone. So I think when I was talking, that probably was it. But anyways, I have one of the only Craftsman. I'm sorry, an old Black & Decker scroll saw. They didn't make that for very long, but it is a workhorse. It is so heavy, and to be honest, there's very little maintenance that I've ever done with it. Like you said, there's not a lot of moving parts, and I blow out the dust, and I hit it with a little spray on occasion, but I'm not really sure whether it's just I'm not beating it down and it needs more work, or whether it's like an old Ford. It just drives and drives and drives.
Well, that's good to know. Now, my dad has an old Craftsman, and I think the older Craftsman tools actually have a better reputation than some of the newer ones. And I've heard that about bandsaws, but this ain't a bandsaw show. But I know my dad's is a workhorse. It's not, the big bells and whistles of a lot of today's saws, but he's had pretty dang good luck with his 16-inch Craftsman. So, Rick, would you agree that the older made saws, other than the bells and whistles that came with feedback from consumers, would you say the older saws were better done?
Oh, there were some of the older saws that were not too bad. The biggest problem I saw with a lot of the older saws is the blade clamps wore out. And again, like Russ says, the hardened steel now that they say is on the Excalibur clamps and stuff. But not all the saw manufacturers do that. Some of them are still going and just getting Allen screws stocked from the hardware store, and that's what's in there with the cup in the bottom. And the older saws were mild steel on the blade clamps. And after you used them a while, they looked all slick and shiny, and they wouldn't hold the blade anymore. And I found that the biggest problem was the blade clamps on the older saws.
Yeah, I think that's what happened to me. I don't remember. I've had so many scroll saws that I think it was a Delta, but I remember one thing I didn't like about the Delta, and I'm talking about way past, is that little spring-loaded clamp thing they had. That thing was the biggest. That was the first time I ever came to you with a repair question. That thing was the biggest flop question, piece of crap. At least the clamp was. The saw was good, but it was that little blue, like lever that pinched the blade clamp closed versus all the set screws and stuff you see these days. That was a royal pain in my butt.
Oh, that's the quick clamp. I love that clamp. I've got those clamps that I've been on the saw for 10 years, and I've replaced the screw in, and it was all I've ever done to them.
Well, I remember on mine, you had to tell me how to take it apart and do all kinds of stuff. We might be talking about two different kinds of clamps, but this one was a little spring-loaded thing, and it was crap.
It's kind of spring-loaded. I've got a video on my website, I think, or at least a tutorial of how to take it apart and how to use them.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Dave Sherman says, could you just run some sandpaper over the ends of the blades? I personally don't know if that would help because blades are blades, but I can go down. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. Yeah, first off, yes, definitely do two things. Clean the end of your blades. They come naturally with I want to call it a manufacturing oil or some kind of oil on them, number one, to help prevent them from rusting while they're being shipped and everything. But anything that's metal that's been manufactured naturally has some kind of an oil residue on it. So if I use alcohol, you can use other things. I just get the bottle of alcohol I have over here and take a little rag, put some alcohol, and clean the ends of the blades before you put them in your blade holders. And it does not hurt to get some small, fine sandpaper and sand the ends of the blade. You can do both the top and the bottom. I do that all the time also, and it seems to help the problem of them slipping out of the blade holders. Definitely, if you're not going to sand them, though, I would definitely recommend that you clean the ends of them with some alcohol just to get rid of that oil residue, because that will transfer. If you don't do that, and you do quite a few of them, that will transfer over to your blade, the clamps, and then now you have oily blade clamps. So.
Yeah, no, I've had, me personally, I've never had to clean or sand a blade, but there are some people that have said that helped them was to light sanding on the blade and cleaning it off with.
I think what it might be also is that naturally some blades may have a little bit more, may a little bit more oil when they come to you in the package than the other blades. Some of them might be more drier or back and forth. I also would like to make one little more quick observation is when you put the little set screw back into the blade clamp holder.
Again, folks, this is on a Delta. This
is on the Delta, the DeWalt 7088, and Excalibur is also the same way. But they will have this set screw on the other side. You're gonna have to get it lined up, but it will have a tendency to move on you. I would recommend that you get some Loctite blue. This is 242. Do not get the red. The red kind is like a permanent, and if you put it in there, you will never get the screw back out. I mean, you pretty well throw the thing away. That Loctite red, it holds things pretty good. But use the blue and put a little blue Loctite on this little set screw before you put it in. Now, you're going to have to give a little while, I don't know, an hour or so for the Loctite to dry, but that will help keep that little set screw in position and keep it from moving, because I did experience a problem with mine moving, and I'd have to reset it. And after I found out about the Loctite, putting the Loctite on it, it cured that problem. And you can do this on the top blade clamp and on the bottom blade clamp on that set screw.
Yeah, it is those little bitty tips and tricks that tend to help. There again, anybody that has any questions for Rick, or really anybody on the panel, whether or not it's on topic, let me know, and I'll get to Paul Keene here shortly. Gary Griffiths is confirming what has been discussed. Alcohol and sandpaper has worked for him. He hasn't had a problem since. Thank you for that, Gary.
I like Rick Hutchinson's idea better.
Okay.
He put the alcohol in the alcohol in the shot glass works real good to clean the end of the blades. I agree with that.
I think y'all are on the same page in the wrong book.
Another thing on that blade clamp, we're talking about running the set screw in. Another thing you need to do on your saws, especially the DeWalt, the Excalibur type saws, and the ones that have the set screw and the thumb screw, you need to make sure the set screws and stuff are in clean, and that the blade is running straight up and down. So what you want to do is bring the blade to the down position, come with like a ruler up against the side of it, and then don't turn the saw on, but then pull the blade up to the up position and see if it has moved towards or away from that ruler. In essence, if you set your bottom blade clamp here, and then the top clamp you run that set screw in too far, now your blade's going to run like this in the saw instead of running straight up and down. So you need to, by setting the ruler up against the blade, running it down, and seeing that the ruler touches, and then if you run it down and the ruler's out here, you know you need to move that set screw over to bring the blade back to where it'll touch the ruler. And even on the saws, some of the other saws with the other type of clamps, there is a way to move one or the other of the blade clamps back and forth to get the blade lined up to run straight up and down.
10-4, I appreciate that. Russ, just so you know, I was getting a tiny bit of static whenever Rick talks. For some reason, I was getting a tiny bit of static when you were when he was talking, and it was coming through you. That's why I muted you. I didn't want you to think I didn't want to talk to you or anything. But Chris, we have a viewer named Jeffrey Super who was a viewer on this morning show, which we appreciate. He says, "Say hi to Chris for me. I just recently started watching his channel. I enjoyed the shower video. I also have one."
Yeah, explain to shop showers when you take the air compressor and you
Oh, yeah.
you don't get the dust all over. I call it my shop shower.
That's funny.
And the
Thank
video,
you.
I did the slow motion with the hair and the,
Oh, that I gotta go see that. I just discovered you today after you commented on one of my videos, and so I'm not gonna be one of those people that pretends I've seen all your stuff, but I will go look at it. I appreciate you joining us today, by the way. Russ, did you want to say something, or did I just think you did?
No. What I was going to say is back to what Rick was talking about blade alignment and aligning your blade. I have a real quick trick that I can show you what I do to make sure my blade's aligned. Let's
All
see
right.
if I can get this down here. You can see my saw all right?
Yes, sir.
Finally, I like my new computer stand I built. It rolls on wheels and everything. But how if I want to make sure my blade line, and you can use a here I've got a gift card, and you can use a gift card if you don't have a steel for square like Rick was talking about, but you can use it to run it from the side and the front and make sure everything's aligned up. That will work great. But a quick tip and a trick that I use is I just take a little square block of 2x4. This is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Actually, I'm using it from the compound cut thing that we did the other day. But you'll take your square block of 2x4 and set it in front of your blade, and if you'll run your saw and cut into that square block just a little bit where you can see that line, and you turn around and set it back down and bring it back to your blade. If your blade fits in that cut, your blade is square to the table.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Russ. What I do, for anybody that missed it on another show, and I know Russ is wanting to talk, we'll get to you in just a second. I eyeball it with an aerosol can, because I know an aerosol can will be a straight line. So I just eyeball it right up next to the blade in front of it, and when they're parallel to each other, that's when I feel confident that it's square. Rick, were you wanting to say something?
Okay, Russ and you are talking about squaring the blade to the table.
Yeah.
Talking about making the blade run true in the arms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're talking about where...
I mean, if you've got the blade clamped here and here in the arm, and they're going up and down. But if you clamp them here and here, it's still going up and down. But now the blade's going up and down this way, and not straight up and down. Think about the blade clamp. If you move your bottom blade clamp 1/4 inch to the right of where it's at, how would your blade run in the saw?
Yeah.
It would still go up and down, but it's just going to be offset. And that's what I'm talking. You need to check the blade alignment, then do your square in the table for the blade and stuff.
Right, I understand what you're saying. And what Rick is saying here is this set screw right here. If you turn it in and keep on turning it in, see if I can show this. You can actually take it all the way into the point, all the way through the center of the blade clamp to the other side. And so if this set screw is way over here on this side, more of the clamp on the top clamp, and then less on the bottom clamp, then the blade is going to be sitting like this, running up and down.
Yeah.
That's what,
and that could be true.
Isn't that what you're talking about, Rick?
Well, it could be that, and you know, different kinds of clamps could have different problems. But yeah, I guess that would be one way, wouldn't it, Rick?
Yeah, Russ has got the idea now. Well, that's what I'm saying. The blade can be tilted in the saw. Different saws have different ways of moving the clamps.
Yeah.
Some of the saws don't have any way to move them, but a lot of the different saws have little different techniques to move the clamps back and forth.
Okay, Rick, I have a question for you by Russ Meadows. He was on the show last week. How you doing, Russ? He says, I have a DeWalt 788, and the bottom clamp is a little bit loose. It moves about 1/16 of an inch. I've tried to tighten the screws, but can't seem to get it locked down tight. What can I do to tighten it up?
If he's saying the clamp is wiggling back and forth, I would say he's probably got some bad bearings down there. Bearings, bushings, whatever you want to call them, that have wore out. And I think he needs to probably take things apart and check all the bearings and make sure that they're all tight. Other than that, I can't see where you're getting the play at in it.
Okay, Russ, if you would like, and if Rick doesn't mind, contact him privately, privately to discuss that if what you look at doesn't make sense or you can't figure it out by what he just said. Again, his website is scrollsaws.com. And Rick, do you mind giving out your email address for people that might have a question after this show's over? Oh, I think it's you're muted.
RIC47 at scrollsaws.com.
Yeah,
and
it's
on the website.
Yeah, it's on his website. Sorry about that. Thank you for that, Russ. We're going to go ahead, unless we have 23 viewers, well, okay, even if a question comes up, I'll direct it to Rick or whoever it's directed to on the panel. But we're going to move on to our next topic. Well, let me jump over the blade chuck adapters. We'll come back to that if need be. One other topic we wanted to talk about was wood sources. Now, you may have some local to you that you may want to share with people in the comment section once this video has been posted, folks. I can put the camera on myself. That would make sense. Now, there again, I'll repeat myself. If you see this video and it's already been done live and you see it, the recorded version, in the comments section say, I live in such and such city or town, and I forgot what I was saying because I got distracted again. In the comment section, just say what town or city you live in and what source you get your wood from if it's local to you. And that way anybody living close to you can go there. I was told about one called OP Hardwoods by a friend of mine named Roger Buchanan, so I'm going to check that out. It's ophardwoods.com. I know 2 websites that are relatively popular. The guys on the panel might have more. I'll go to them in a second. I know oakoochhardwoods.com and sloanswoodshop.com. Those are 2 good sources for wood. And Russ Meadows does say that's what he meant, Rick, just so you know that. He confirmed what you were talking about. Before I go to the panel, Paul Keene was asking, does anyone use pallet wood? I have a decent supply of it available and a joiner as well as a thickness planer. And is it worth the effort to prepare the wood? I think it is, because wood is wood, and you can find some pretty darn good wood with pallet wood. I guess I can go down the line and see anybody. Christopher?
Yeah, one of the things I find with pallet wood that I do is I find places that sell bricks and rocks, because when they throw out the pallets are not going to be pine. They're going to be solid oak. And so getting pallets are great. I have a whole stack of pallet wood, and I put it together and make wider boards. But I got to tell you, though, if you think about the places that get the heavy machinery in and the rocks and the brick, their pallets are usually solid oak. I found mahogany, and I found walnut. And so pallet wood is great, and I love it. But getting hardwood and pallet wood is kind of hard to do. So look for those places that sell heavy things, and their pallets are much heavier, the ones that they throw away usually.
That's a good point. In Walmart, I'm going to go ahead and mute you, Chris, because I'm getting, never mind, you did it. Okay, Walmart even sells heavy crap, so you never know. But I've never been lucky enough to find anything beyond pine. But as a funny note, here we go. Alan Carter says, "How did you get distracted? Mark Stallings is not there." LOL. Because Mark Stallings is usually the one posting something in the chat section that distracts me. This time it was Mark Sherman, but he wasn't trying to distract me. He was just saying something to the panel. And Mark Stallings actually has a serious comment. He says, "I've been to OP Hardwoods here in Springfield, and they have a good variety at a very reasonable price." Thank you, Mark Stallings, for your nice and mature comment. Anybody that's watched the show in the past knows why I'm giving him crap. But Mark Sherman, where do you go for your wood, or do you buy online? Do you buy local?
I have bought my thin woods from how do you pronounce that in Wisconsin?
Cooch Hardwoods?
Cooch Hardwoods. We have a place in Omaha. It's called Midwest Woodworkers. So that's where I get a lot of my stuff. I just did a project now where I'm in the process of doing an eagle and tarja. Bought some Wenge and some yellow heart, so I go to the Midwest Woodworkers. But Cooch Hardware is very good. They have very fast turnaround. Their wood's pretty good quality. I don't have any problems with them whatsoever, but I haven't bought from anywhere else except for, I guess, Woodsmith shop over in Clive, Iowa, near Rick. I bought a few things from there, but it's not a normal because it's a couple hours away. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that. God only knows where Rick gets his wood, but I'll ask to be fair. But God, he's probably got a dump truck full of it in the backyard or something. Come on, Rick, where do you get your wood?
I used to go to a sawmill about 40 miles north of me, but they've since closed down. So now when I do need flat wood, I go to the woodsmith store. Back to the pallets. One of the big things you got to watch on the pallets, he says I've got a joiner and everything. You stop and think about those pallets. They come off of a semi, maybe got set down in a parking lot, and then moved into a warehouse, and they've got rocks and gravel embedded in a lot of the stuff. And man, they'll tear up joiner blades and planer blades in a heartbeat with all the rocks and stuff that can be in them.
Yeah, not to mention hidden nails.
Yeah, and the nails are harder than heck to get out.
Absolutely.
Go to where they're getting stuff imported from overseas. You can find some mahogany and a little bit of all the what we call exotic woods that are in pallets made from those countries.
Yeah, because the other countries, it's like as common as pine in our country, I guess.
Right.
Russ, where do you get your? Thank you, Rick. Russ, where do you get your wood from? Sloan's, was it?
Well, no. Now the hardwood, all my hardwood. No, I'm fortunate enough to have somebody that within about 30 minutes of me, a lumber supply. He deals in hardwoods, but now his is all rough cut. I mean, or he sells it by the board foot. In other words, he sells 5/4, 4/4. 4/4 would be 1 inch thick, and it's unmilled. So I would buy like a piece an inch of a mahogany, 8 foot long, 10 inches wide, 2 inches thick, and bring it home. And then I would do the rest of the milling. I have a bandsaw and planers, and I would do the rest of the milling myself here at home. So I'm fortunate to have a wood shop, and I can do that for all my hardwoods. Now, as far as Baltic birch plywood, yes, I buy it from Sloan's. He sells, the same guy I buy the hardwood from sells Baltic birch plywood, but his thinnest that he sells is 3/8, and I would like to use 1/8 and 1/4 inch, so I would have to place a big order to get it from him, and it's not worth it. So I buy all my Baltic birch plywood from Sloan's. They're very good people. They remind me of Mike, mom and pop store, so to speak, and
Yeah.
they're very good people. But that's and I like about now pallet wood. My son-in-law worked for me in the construction. I have a construction business for several years, and he knows the difference and has been able to tell the species of wood. He has went on to work and has become one of the managers over at Pepsi Corporation, and they get machines. They're machines that they install drink machines in and stuff like that. And he tells me he has pallets out there all the time. So I've taught him that he knows the difference of the species of hardwoods that I'm looking for, and he will actually go through the pallets and find them for me and bring them home. So I have a good access to pallets, and he knows what he's looking for.
Absolutely. Another good place to go to is cabinet shop dumpsters. I'm not too proud, but unfortunately I don't live anywhere near a cabinet shop. But that being said, I'm going to go to the Q&A section. Edgar Natra says, "Greetings from Nevada. Sorry I'm late. It's okay. Next time you're grounded. But thank you for watching." Donna Presley says, I got to try to say this. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm going to try. Sylacauga, Alabama. Only have one cabinet shop, and I can get free wood from. And she orders from eBay from Deer Hunter 56, which ironically is where I get my thin wood from. They got very good quality, very good business, and it ships quick. Again, that eBay seller name is Deer Hunter 56. It's a guy named Kim Oberlin. Very good customer service from that guy. I didn't know anybody else knew about him, but, well, obviously people do. Never mind. And she also got to Cherokee Wood Products for the bigger pieces of Baltic birch. Thank you for that.
Charles,
Yes, sir.
we have a question on YouTube
Go ahead.
from Adam Hollerman. He says, I'm just getting into scrolling and picked up a Ryobi scroll saw. I know it's not a great saw, but like I said, I'm just getting into it. He claims to accept either pin or plain end blades. However, I'm having an issue with the plain end blades slipping out of the holder after running the saw for a few minutes. Anyone have any experience with the Ryobi models? And he said also the air hose to blow the sawdust is terrible too. It doesn't blow anything out of the way. I'm not sure what he's talking about on that, but I would say to him, are you cleaning your number one, are you cleaning the ends of the blades? Also, clean the blade holder on your saw. Take a rag and run it in between with some alcohol in it and get that area in your saw chuck cleaned out where those blade, where it clamps on the blade. That might help too. And the sanding the ends of the blade. Those are 2 or 3 of the things that I could think of that might help you. I don't know if anybody else has any ideas. I don't own a Ryobi or know what a Ryobi looks like, so.
Yeah, I'll go to Rick in just a second to see if he knows that answer. But I'm very, very sorry if anybody from Ryobi is listening, but that is the worst freaking scroll saw I've ever owned in my life. It's the most rickety piece of crap. The upper arm snapped on me while I was using it. I mean, I can only imagine if I can ask Rick, but my God, I'm sorry, Ryobi, but your scroll saws suck. I hope not that they were going to sponsor me or anything. Rick, do you have anything to say about Ryobi scroll saws?
Well, not specifically Ryobi, but Craftsman come out with a lot of those too and stuff. I have found generally that the saws that take pin blades and then they give you this neat little adapter to use the pinless, usually the adapters are about as crappy as the pin inside, and the blade slipping in them is not uncommon at all. It's just a poor designed blade clamp is the whole problem.
Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and read the Q&A because that'll lead us into our next topic, which was blade adapters, so I'm glad you said that. Alwyn Carter, I don't know if he's talking to Russ Clarity or Russ Meadows, but he said, what is the email address for Baltic Birch? I guess it means sloanswoodshop.com in the website, or I don't know if which Russ he's talking to. The only one on the panel will be Russ Clarity, and I believe he mentioned Sloan's, but go ahead, Russ, if you got it.
Yeah, let me look. It take me about 2 seconds. I have their... It's www.sloanswoodshop.com is their website that you would go to buy your Baltic birch. As far as I don't know of an email address. I'm sure it's on their website somewhere, but if you'll go to sloanswoodshop.com, that's where I buy all my, and I must say I've been buying Baltic birch for them for years and have never had a problem with them.
Oh, good deal. Thank you very much. John Schaffner, a former regular on the panel, thank you very much for watching, John. He says eBay can be a good source for thin woods as long as you use a reputable seller. He also mentions Deer Hunter 56. Again, that guy's name is Kim Oberlin, but he goes by Deer Hunter 56 on eBay, and Thin Boards is another username. And once I found Deer Hunter 56, I actually went to him specifically rather than searching. But I probably should search just for the sake of searching. Thank you for that, John. We have Mark Stallings. I may have already read this, said I also go to my local cabinet shops and they have some decent stuff. And that's true. I'm not. You can find some dang good stuff in their dumpster. And Donna Presley says I actually was the first one to pronounce her city in Alabama correctly. So good on Charlie. Okay. You're welcome, Alan, or he said thank you, Russ. Sorry, I was speaking for you, but I'm sure you're going to say you're welcome or bite me in the butt. I'm pretty sure you're going to say you're welcome. Okay.
I don't think I would have said bite me in the butt, but
I know I'm just trying to.
he is he is welcome, and
Yeah. I felt pretty safe saying that you're welcome from Russ. Now we have actually almost hit an hour, which I think we did pretty good on this one. We didn't stray at all. And I'm going to go over to Chris. Chris, did you have any questions or comments regarding things you'd like to say on this show, or any questions whatsoever, whether it had anything to do with what we talked about tonight or not?
One of the things I made a bunch of that works really well is made a bunch of these squares with the edge, and it's perfect for squaring up to make sure your table's is flush and 90 degrees to the blade. And it's kind of hard to find them, so you gotta kind of make them. But I made like a half dozen of these, and I use them all over the shop. And it's nice because it's perfect for a scroll saw. So if anyone hasn't done it before, make it perfectly square and 90 degrees, but it's perfect for making sure that that's square. And like you said, sometimes I'll run the blade on it, flip it over, and look to see if it's actually square to the blade. And if it's off, then I know it's not. But not so much just one way, but you got to kind of do it two ways.
Yeah.
I was thinking about.
Yeah, I think that plays into. Thank you, Chris. I think that plays into what Rick was saying about the up and down. So yeah, the two ways is definitely. Mark's. Well, let me start in order. I believe Russ Meadows said, "This is kind of funny, Russ." I'm talking to Russ Clarity here. He says, "My first name is Charles. My middle name is Russ. I've lived in Texas for 50 years, but was born in Florida and lived there for 9 years." Tell me how creepy that is, Russ.
holy crap!
I just think we found our brother from another mother. He said, "Probably a good thing I went on the panel tonight." Oh God. No,
Maybe one of our parents strayed over the years.
My God, I don't know. I don't even want to try to guess which one, but Russ, we will have you back on the panel because you're only a one-time run here. We're gonna average 2 to 3 people on the panel other than me and Russ, so we will invite you back, and even the regulars like John Schaffner and Mark Stallings and John Cousins and Lee Knight and Bill Heitman. We will occasionally. We're gonna mix it up on the whoever else is on the panel. Unless it's something specific to the topic, like we knew scroll saw maintenance would be a very good topic to come to Rick Hutchison about. That's why we chose him. Mark Sherman, we had him lined up to talk about blade chuck adapters, but his source fell through and wanted to hold off before he went anywhere with that. So, but of course we enjoy having Mark Sherman here. We invited Chris Demetric because I just found him. And he had commented on my video, and we wanted a newcomer, so we figured, let's throw a newbie on here.
You know, real quick, you said something about having Rick on to talk about maintenance on the scroll saws. I figure anybody that has 200 scroll saws should know a little bit about maintenance on one.
Absolutely. Rick, what is that link you just posted in the chat section?
Okay, that's an outfit that carries some blade clamps for some of the different saws that will retrofit to different saws. Pizzola or Pizzola, I don't know how you pronounce it, but if you can get that there somehow.
Okay, Rick and or Russ, y'all babble back and forth while I write this down, because I'm going to put that in the comment section or the description of the show.
I got Mark has the 30-inch. I'd just like to ask him something. The 30-inch Excalibur on yours. Do you ever have a lot of problems with blade slippage on your 30-inch Excalibur, Mark?
I think that is given for any saw with the DeWalt and the Delta also, because it's exact. The bottom, the newer blade clamp is similar to. On the Excalibur is similar to the DeWalt and the Delta, but it's got the tension knob, so it's a little bit different. But the principle is the same. But the bottom is the exact same as the Delta and the DeWalt. So I have the same issues. Every once in a while that I do, it does pop out, but maybe it's more my fault than the actual equipment. So.
I found the biggest problem that I had if I do have a slippage was. Either I forgot to clean the blade, I was in a hurry and just popped another one in, and it'll start slipping. And once you make that mistake of putting it in there and it has that oil on it, you might as well clean your holders top and bottom because you've already contaminated those. And the next thing that helped with my blade slippage was I do take a little piece of fine sandpaper and run over the ends of them before I stick them in.
Yeah, sometimes putting them in there can be a mistake. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, we got 2 comments regarding the whole strangeness of Charles and Russ and his middle name. Mark Stalling says that if a Texan and a Floridian ran a hangout, would it be confusing? Yes, it would. And Russ Meadows thinks it might have been somebody who was behind the woodshed. Thank you for that, Russ Meadows. Mark Stalling says, not if he does not fix them, he just buys a new one when the old one breaks. I don't know what that was in reference to, unless you're talking about the Ryobi. I'm losing track because because the Ryobi is like a disposable scroll saw. I'm sorry, Ryobi, if y'all are listening. Send me a brand new one, and I'll test it and then tell you how crappy it is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, I've heard bad things about Harbor Freight, but I've heard a lot of good stories about Harbor Freight, at least with their scroll saws. Now, some people think they're like a boat anchor, but anyway, Edgar Natras says 2,000. I thought it was more like 500. I don't even remember what that was in reference to. So Ed, remind me because I blinked a few times since then. Or 200. Wait, 200. I thought it was more like 500. Maybe talking about a price tag on something. I have no idea because I wasn't paying attention to myself. But Ed, you can tell me after the show because the show is about to end because we've actually gone over an hour. Does anybody on the panel have anything they want to say before we shut out? Say your name and I'll put the camera on you. Alrighty then. We appreciate you watching Season 1, Episode 17 of Scrolling with Charlie. Thank you very much for Christopher Demetric out of Syracuse, New York. Mark Sherman out of Bellevue, Nebraska. I remembered. Rick Hutchison out of Grimes, Iowa. Russ Clarity out of Mulberry, Florida. Me out of Gatesville, Texas. And Mark Stalling says all of Rick saws. Okay, thank you, Mark Stalling. And we will post the link to the regulars that might want to come in and chat and talk crap to me. Mark Stallings being one of them. We love you too, brother. Anyway, like we first started talking about, well, never mind. Just don't scroll naked. And for the love of God, scroll on.